Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, asking yourself why you do not feel truly happy? It is a strange, sinking feeling. You might be struggling to make rent, feeling the weight of every bill, and you think, if I just had more money, this would all go away. But then you look at people who have made it. The ones making 6 figures, the ones with the blue check marks, the ones who seem to have unlocked the cheat codes to life. And yet, so many of them admit to feeling a profound sense of emptiness. It is the great paradox of our time. We chase the promotion, the new car, the better apartment, believing these are the keys to satisfaction. But once we hold them in our hands, the joy is fleeting. It dissolves like smoke. There is a quote, often attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, that suggests we are always getting ready to live, but never actually living. Think about how true that feels right now. By every objective metric, we are living in the most comfortable time in human history. The luxuries that kings and queens would have started wars for in the 19th century are now mundane items in our pockets. We have instant access to all the world's knowledge, air conditioning, antibiotics, and food delivered to our doorsteps with a single tap. We are living longer, healthier lives than our ancestors could have ever dreamed of. By all logic, we should be swimming in euphoria. We should be the happiest generation to ever walk the earth. But we are not. In fact, rates of anxiety and depression are climbing. Why is there such a massive disconnect between our external comfort and our internal peace? Why does the modern world feel so heavy? You might find the answer in a groundbreaking work by a man with a name that is hard to pronounce, but impossible to forget. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He was a Hungarian-American psychologist who dedicated his life to studying this exact problem. His book, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, is not just a self-help book. It is a scientific deep dive into the architecture of the human mind. Unlike the pop psychology you see on Instagram, Csikszentmihalyi did not just guess at what makes us happy. He used rigorous data and years of research to uncover why we feel the way we do, and more importantly, how to fix it. He argued that the default state of the human mind is not peace. It is not happiness. The default state is chaos. To explain this, he borrowed a concept from physics called entropy. In thermodynamics, entropy is the measure of disorder in a system. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that in a closed system, entropy always increases. Things fall apart. Energy dissipates. If you leave a car in a field for 50 years, it does not assemble itself into a Ferrari. It rusts into dust. If you do not clean your apartment, it does not get tidier. It descends into a mess of laundry and dishes. The universe naturally trends toward disorder. Csikszentmihalyi realized this same law applies to our consciousness. He called it psychic entropy. This is the disorder of the mind. It is that feeling when your thoughts are scattering in 1,000 directions, driven by anxiety, worry, and intrusive thoughts. When we are left alone with our own minds, without a task to focus on, we do not naturally drift toward happy thoughts. We drift toward chaos. We worry about that awkward thing we said 5 years ago. We stress about an email we have not sent. We compare our lives to the curated highlight reels of strangers on social media. This psychic entropy is the root cause of our unhappiness. It prevents us from focusing. It drains our mental energy. It makes us feel fragmented and weak. This chaos attacks us from 2 fronts. The first front is the external world. Let's be honest, the universe was not designed for your comfort. Nature is indifferent. It throws blizzards, heat waves, viruses, and earthquakes at us. For our ancestors, life was a brutal fight for survival against the elements. Today, we have built walls and heaters to protect ourselves, but the unpredictability remains. We realize how small we are when we look at the stars, or when a global event shakes the economy. We spend our whole lives trying to build security, but deep down, we know that ultimately, we are subject to the laws of nature. We will all return to dust. That existential dread is a form of entropy, a reminder that we cannot control everything. The second front, and the far more dangerous one, comes from within. It is our own biological programming. It is the hedonic treadmill. We are hardwired to want more. It is an evolutionary trait that kept us alive on the savannah, but in modern America, it is driving us insane. We set a goal, say, buying a house. We think, once I sign those papers, I will be happy forever. We get the house. We feel good for a month. Then the feeling fades. We spot a crack in the drywall. We wish we had a bigger yard. We need new furniture. The goalpost moves. We measure our worth by external achievements, but the appetite for more is a bottomless pit. We become obsessed with the result, the destination, rather than the journey. We sacrifice our present moment, the only time we actually have, for a future that never really arrives. And to make matters worse, we live in an economy that is built on fracturing your attention. When you sit down to work, your phone buzzes. You check Twitter, then TikTok, then you look at the news. This is voluntary entropy. We are flooding our own brains with noise, increasing the disorder, and then wondering why we feel burnt out and empty. So, if the universe leans toward chaos, and our own minds lean toward anxiety, are we doomed? Is life just a slow slide into disorder? Csikszentmihalyi says no. While entropy is the natural direction of things, we have the power to create negentropy, negative entropy. This is the creation of order. Think about your body. It fights entropy every day. Your cells repair themselves. You work out to build muscle. You eat to gain energy. That is fighting chaos. In the mind, we can do the same thing. We can create order out of the noise. And when we do that, when we align our intentions, our focus, and our actions, we enter a state that is the opposite of psychic entropy. We enter the state of flow. So, we have established that the universe is chaotic, and our minds are prone to spiraling into anxiety. It sounds bleak, but there is a counterforce. In physics, if entropy is disorder, then negentropy is order. Think about your daily routine. Your body naturally wants to decay, that is entropy. But when you go to the gym, lift heavy weights, and eat protein, you are imposing order on your biology. You are fighting the chaos. We do the same thing mentally. When your head is spinning with stress, you might sit down and journal, pouring those scattered thoughts onto paper to make sense of them. That is negentropy. You are organizing the chaos. The secret to a happy life, according to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, is mastering this ability to create order in your consciousness. But you do not do this by forcing it. You do it by entering a specific state of being where the noise of the world fades away, and the only thing that exists is the task in front of you. He called this optimal experience. You have probably felt it before, even if you did not have a name for it. Maybe you were painting, or coding at 2 a.m, or playing basketball, and suddenly you looked up and realized 3 hours had passed in what felt like 3 minutes. You forgot you were hungry. You forgot you were tired. You even forgot your own name. That state is what we call flow. But flow is not magic. It is a psychological state with specific triggers. Csikszentmihalyi identified 5 clear conditions that need to be met to unlock this superpower. If you can understand these, you can essentially hack your own happiness. The first condition is that the activity must be autotelic. This is a fancy Greek term meaning the activity is an end in itself. You do it because you love doing it, not just for the reward at the end. You play the guitar because the act of playing feels good, not just because you want to be famous. The second condition is competence. You need to have a certain level of skill in what you are doing. You cannot flow in a language you do not speak. The third condition is the most critical, the balance between challenge and skill. This is the Goldilocks zone. If a task is too easy relative to your skill, you get bored. Your mind wanders, and entropy creeps back in. If a task is too hard, you get anxious and frustrated. Flow happens right in the middle, where the challenge stretches your abilities just enough to keep you fully engaged, but not enough to break you. The fourth condition is immediate feedback. You need to know, right in the moment, if you are doing it right. When you are playing tennis, you know instantly if the ball went over the net. There is no ambiguity. And finally, the fifth condition is clarity. You need a clear goal. You need to know exactly what the objective is. Now, pause for a second and think about the last time you played a video game. Whether it was a massive open-world adventure or a competitive shooter, video games are essentially billion-dollar flow machines engineered to hit all 5 of these buttons perfectly. Think about it. First, you play because you want to. It is autotelic. Second, the game teaches you the controls, building your competence. Third, the difficulty scales perfectly. Level 1 is easy, but by level 10, you are sweating. It keeps you in that channel where the challenge matches your growing skills. Fourth, you get immediate feedback points pop up, health bars go down, the controller vibrates. And fifth, the goal is crystal clear. Save the princess, capture the flag, or defeat the boss. This is why you can grind a video game for 6 hours straight with laser focus, but you cannot spend 20 minutes on a spreadsheet without checking Instagram. The game is designed for flow. Real life is not. But here is where many people get tripped up. They think, okay, if flow makes me happy and video games give me flow, I should just game all day. Or they assume that passive leisure, like binge-watching an entire season of a show on Netflix or scrolling through TikTok for hours, counts as happiness. It does not. Csikszentmihalyi makes a crucial distinction here between pleasure and enjoyment. Pleasure is passive. Eating a donut is pleasurable. Watching TV is pleasurable. It restores order to your consciousness temporarily, but it does not grow you. It adds no complexity to yourself. Once the donut is gone, the feeling is gone. Enjoyment, or flow, is active. It requires effort. It requires you to invest psychic energy. And because of that investment, when you exit a flow state, you are different than when you entered. You are more complex. You are more skilled. You have leveled up in real life. That growth is where true, lasting happiness comes from. Passive consumption is just a distraction from the chaos. Flow is the conquest of chaos. So, the million-dollar question is, if flow is the key, why do we reserve it for hobbies? Why do we accept that work and study have to be miserable drudgery? We spend the vast majority of our waking lives working. If we are miserable for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, No amount of weekend fun can fix that. We need to figure out how to import the mechanics of flow, the same mechanics that make video games so addictive, into our careers and our studies. This brings us to the practical application. How do we turn a boring, soul-crushing job into a source of flow? The first step is a brutal self-audit. You need to evaluate your actual capacity and skills versus the work you are doing. A lot of young people today feel stuck. Maybe you rushed into a corporate job because your parents wanted you to be stable, but you hate it. Or maybe you are chasing a passion career that you are technically unqualified for, so you are in a state of constant anxiety. In the United States, we have this cultural script that says you must follow your passion, but sometimes we end up in jobs that simply do not align with our internal wiring. If the gap between the challenge of the job and your skill level is too wide, you will burn out. If the job is too easy for your intelligence, you will rust out from boredom. Recognizing where you stand is step one. But let's be real, most of us cannot just quit our jobs tomorrow and go live on a mountain. We have rent to pay. We have student loans. We are locked into the system. So, if you cannot change the job immediately, you have to change how you experience the job. You have to re-engineer the experience from the inside out to manufacture flow where it does not naturally exist. This is not about faking it until you make it. It is about psychologically restructuring your reality. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Ken who lives in my building. Ken works as a ride-share driver in the city. Now, if you think about that job objectively, it sounds like a nightmare for your mental health. You are stuck in gridlock traffic for 10 hours a day, dealing with road rage, dodging potholes, and listening to passengers complain about the weather or politics. Most people in that position would be burned out, bitter, and watching the clock every single minute. But Ken is different. Every time I see him, he is genuinely energized. He has this lightness about him. I asked him once how he does it. It turns out, Ken used to work in high-stakes sales, but he burnt out and lost his passion. When he started driving, he realized the job was too easy for his brain. It was monotonous. So, instinctively, he applied the rules of flow. He turned his cab into a game. He sets personal challenges for himself every single day. One day, his goal is to drive as smoothly as possible, trying to brake so gently that a cup of coffee on the dashboard wouldn't spill. The next day, he focuses on social intelligence. He sets a goal to make exactly 3 passengers laugh out loud before noon. Or he tries to guess a passenger's profession within the first 5 minutes of conversation. He is not just driving a car, he is practicing the art of driving and the art of human connection. He took a low-skill, high-boredom environment and artificially increased the difficulty to match his skill level. He turned a chore into a craft. This is the secret. If your job is boring you to tears because it is too easy, you do not necessarily need a new job. You need to increase the complexity. Challenge yourself to do it faster. Challenge yourself to do it with higher quality. Gamify the mundane. On the flip side, what if you are paralyzed because the task is too hard? We see this all the time with graduate students writing their thesis or creatives starting a new business. The mountain looks too high. The challenge far exceeds your current skill or emotional bandwidth, so you shut down. You doom scroll on your phone instead of working because you are anxious. The solution here is the inverse of Ken's strategy. You must lower the challenge threshold. If writing a 50-page dissertation feels impossible, stop trying to write a dissertation. Set a goal to write 200 terrible words. Just 200. Anyone can write 200 bad words. By lowering the bar, you re-enter that Goldilocks zone, where the challenge matches your current energy. Once you start, the momentum often carries you into flow, but you have to trick your brain into starting by making the game winnable. This brings us to the final, and perhaps most difficult pillar of a happy life in the 21st century: absolute, unwavering focus. There is a powerful saying, if you control your attention, you control your life. It sounds simple, but look around you. We are losing this battle. We live in an economy of distraction. You try to write a report, but you have a YouTube video playing in the background. You try to have dinner with your partner, but you are glancing at your watch to check a notification. You are trying to watch a movie, but you are scrolling through TikTok at the same time. This constant fragmentation of attention is the ultimate flow killer. You cannot enter a deep, meaningful state of existence if you are interrupting yourself every 15 minutes. It keeps you in a state of permanent, shallow agitation. Csikszentmihalyi's research is clear. The quality of your life is determined by what you pay attention to. If your attention is scattered, yourself becomes scattered. You feel empty because you are never truly here. To reclaim your happiness, you have to reclaim your attention. This means embracing the lost art of monotasking. When you read a book, just read the book. Put the phone in another room. When you are writing a report, close all the other tabs. And this applies to your personal life too. When you are walking the dog, just walk the dog. Look at the trees. Feel the air. Don't listen to a podcast. Don't text your friends. Just be. When you are listening to your mother tell a story you have heard a dozen times, actually listen. Engage. Give her your full presence. It turns out that flow is not just for artists or athletes. It is available to you when you are washing the dishes, if you focus on the temperature of the water and the texture of the plates. It is available to you when you are eating a sandwich, if you actually taste the food instead of watching Netflix. By bringing your full attention to the present moment, you transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. You reduce the entropy in your mind. You create order, and in that order, you find peace. So, here is the roadmap. To build a life of happiness, you do not need to become a monk or a billionaire. You need to master your own consciousness. First, know yourself. Understand what you are good at. Second, adjust the dials of your life. If things are too boring, add a challenge. If things are too hard, break them down. And finally, and most importantly, defend your focus with your life. Stop letting the world steal your attention. When you learn to live in flow, you stop waiting for the weekend. You stop waiting for retirement. You realize that the happiness you were looking for was never in the destination. It was in the depth of the experience right now. I hope this helps you look at your day a little differently tomorrow. I am curious. What is one boring part of your life that you think you could turn into a game or a flow state? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to read your ideas. If you found value in this deep dive, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow, and subscribe so we can keep having these conversations. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I will see you in the next one.